Now, counter-terror police have said they're assessing tweets made by Alaa Abd El-Fattah. A counter-terrorism policing spokesperson has said this.
We have received a number of public referrals in recent days relating to various historical social media posts. Should any potential offences be identified, then depending on the nature of the offences, the CTIRU will either refer the matter to the relevant investigation team within counter-terrorism policing or to the relevant local police force to consider for further investigation.
Well, it all comes as the Foreign Secretary has launched an urgent review into what she calls serious information failures in the Alaa Abd El-Fattah case. Yvette Cooper says she nor the Prime Minister were told about historic online posts, comments now described by the government as abhorrent. But Downing Street are still saying that El-Fattah is welcome in Britain.
Well, joining us now is Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick. Robert, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us today on GB News. The government seemed to have been totally blindsided by these comments dating back 10 to 15 years. And yet in 2014, there was a prize that this man did not get because there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal detailing just how violent and extreme his posts were. How on earth was it missed, not just by this government, but about your previous government, and indeed, it seems, by the whole of the civil service?
Well, good afternoon. You're absolutely right. The level of incompetence here is absolutely astonishing. El-Fattah is an extremist. He's espoused extremist views for a long time, and it seems to have been very well known. It didn't take Sherlock Holmes to uncover his tweets. It took a few minutes for people online, my own team included, to discover tweet after tweet after tweet displaying anti-white, anti-British, anti-Semitic, Holocaust-denying views. And we've seen them from his mother and now from his sister, Mona, as well. As you rightly say, he had a European Peace Prize rescinded in 2014 and 15 because of his anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic views. And yet, the civil servants in the Home Office and the Foreign Office were either oblivious to this or, worse, knew about it and chose to conceal it because it didn't fit their agenda. And politician after politician, frankly, of all political parties, queued up to laud this character, to be photographed with members of his family, to join the campaign alongside all of these celebrities who got on board as well. This has been a massive failure by the British state and by many people in politics. They should all be ashamed of themselves for their failure to do the most basic due diligence into this man. And now the British people are lumbered with him because he's here and it's going to be difficult to get rid of him. But nonetheless, I think his citizenship should be revoked, and there's a very strong argument for that, and he should be deported as soon as possible.
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their New Year deal. New Year, new VPN, and a huge saving of up to 80% if you act now. You're busy planning how to get in shape, but the hackers are planning how to get into your accounts. ExpressVPN locks down your connection so you can start the year protecting your data. This offer ends on the 7th of January, so scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
It does seem extraordinary that citizenship was sort of gifted to him while he was in prison in 2021. But you raised the case of his sister, another prominent activist in Egypt. She has previously said this about the comments that you cite today. She said, "So now silly bantering between me and friends saying I will kill you over silly joking tweets are now circulating to claim I am a violent person. Are you out of your minds?" That's what El-Fattah's sister Mona said. What's your response to her defence there?
Well, I think that's complete and utter garbage. If you look at the tweets that we've unearthed, and it only took us a few minutes once again to find them, it was more than just all of these so-called banterish threats of violence. It was lauding the Hamas paragliders, saying that was a highly imaginative way to attack people after October the 7th. Remember, they were the ones who paraglided into the kibbutzes and the music festival and then went on to kill and rape hundreds of people. She attacked Amnesty International, of all organisations, not exactly a right-wing organisation, because they had called for Hamas to stop killing civilians at one stage, and she drew moral equivalence between Hamas's activities in Israel and the Ukrainians' battle against the unprovoked aggression of Russia. There may be more, I don't know. We managed to find those in just a couple of minutes looking at her social media account last night. So by most commonsensical views, she's an extremist as well. And the point about raising her, not just that it's worrying that she lives in our country and might be causing danger to the British public herself, is that there were politicians queuing up to be photographed with her, like David Lammy, for example. And yet, did they not look at her social media? If they did that not raise alarm bells and make them think, well, maybe there's something deeper that we need to delve into with this whole family? Is perhaps Alaa Abd-El-Fattah not this messianic figure that we should be celebrating and trying to get released from prison, but somebody who is at best a very mixed character, more likely somebody that has extremist views, and we do not want anywhere near our own country? The naivety and the incompetence of the civil servants and the activists, and I'm afraid to say politicians as well, is absolutely shocking in this case. And once again, it's the poor old British public that are going to have to shoulder this, because we're going to be stuck with this man, at least until he can be deported, potentially for the rest of his life, because nowhere else in the world, let's be honest, wants him now.
Robert, you talk about the British public, and undoubtedly this is an almighty mess for the government. But, Boris Johnson, Priti Patel, plenty of Conservatives campaigned for him to be released from that Egyptian jail as well. We had a pollster on yesterday saying that this picture of chaos and dysfunction in Whitehall risks turning voters, yes, against Labour, but also against the whole establishment, the Conservatives, who are also involved, and people looking and thinking, well, I've tried Labour, I've tried the Tories, and basically this helping reform all the Greens.
Well, let's be honest, this is a massive failure by the British state, under the last Conservative government and now under this Labour government as well. All of those involved should be asking searching questions about their own conduct. I thought it was very admirable that Ian Duncan Smith was one of the few politicians to come out and say that he was sorry. And Ian has a fantastic record of standing up against authoritarian regimes like China, for example, and campaigning for innocent people, democracy activists like Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong, to be released. And when he realised that he'd made a mistake, he'd relied upon assurances of others that turned out to be wrong, he had the courage and integrity to stand up and admit that. I think that's what everyone should be doing in this situation. You've got to ask searching questions about the civil servants, I'm afraid. It isn't just information failures, as Yvette Cooper describes it. This is catastrophic mistakes where civil servants either didn't know the most basic things about a case that they were pushing in front of Prime Minister after Prime Minister after Prime Minister, or worse, they did, and they were either sympathetic to those views or it didn't suit their agenda, and so they wanted to brush them under the carpet. It's a completely disgraceful failure by the Foreign Office and the Home Office, and there needs to be a full investigation into that. But the most important thing is this man needs to leave our country. We don't want somebody with these extremist views walking amongst us. It makes us look like fools, and it is a threat to national security, which is the test at law as to whether you can revoke somebody's citizenship and commence deportation. That's what I want to see Starmer and Shaban Mahmood do now.
I've really been trying to understand what those who are defending these posts have been saying over the last 48 hours. I've read with interest the responses from those who have been accused themselves and their supporters. And to be fair, I think there are one or two tweets that have been taken out of context where sarcasm was being used and wasn't understood.
I think the sister there saying about killing people.
I think that
is probably
in one or two cases, I think that is a fair criticism. Where I have not seen one piece of defence that stands up really at all is all of the tweets talking about Jews, Zionists and Israel. I haven't heard a single word of defence that tries to explain away or sort of explain why that sort of sentiment is so embedded. A lot of people say, well, these were secular activists, they were against the violent police of Egypt at the time and all the rest of it. None of that explains the attitude towards the Jewish state. This is, I think, the real problem that these individuals have.
Well, look, I think you're absolutely right, Tom. And what is particularly worrying is these weren't so-called historic tweets, or as El-Fattah has said when he was a young man, he was in his early 30s when he was making these statements. You know, that is an age at which most people are responsible for their own actions and should be held to account. And what we uncovered last night was that at the very moment that he was making a so-called unequivocal apology on Western UK social media, he was over on Arabic Facebook saying completely the opposite. He was liking posts which people had made where they were presenting him as the victim of this, presenting him as the victim of a Zionist conspiracy, saying that Jews and billionaires and all the usual tropes were involved to blacken his name and that he was actually innocent. That doesn't suggest that this man is in any way repentant for his actions. It suggests that the apology that he put out in the UK was insincere and scripted and fake. And in reality, he stands by the extremist and the anti-Semitic comments that he made in the past. It all presents the picture that this man needs to be removed from our country because he's not conducive to the public good here. The other point I just say, Tom, is important, though obviously it is, to highlight the fact that he is an anti-Semite. He also put out a load of stuff saying that he hated white people and that he hated Brits. He said that Brits were dogs and monkeys. And when Keir Starmer tweeted yesterday, he distanced himself quite rightly from the anti-Semitism and the homophobia, but he didn't mention that, as if somehow it was okay to have somebody in our country who wanted to attack white people or British people. I think that's an astonishing sentiment from the British Prime Minister. We don't want anyone in this country who espouses racism against anyone, quite frankly, Jews, Muslims, people of any faith, any skin colour. And this man, his track record is absolutely appalling. And from the posts that we've seen or the likes that we've seen on social media in the last 24 hours, he doesn't appear to be a changed character at all.
Well, Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick, thank you very much indeed for joining us today on GB News.
Well, we should say that Alaa Abd El-Fattah himself has said this. Looking at the tweets now, the ones that were not completely twisted out of their meaning, I do understand how shocking and hurtful they are, and for that, I unequivocally apologise.
Well, we have reached out to Mona's team at Free Alaa, but we are yet to get a response. However, in response to accusations of violent threats, Mona has previously said this.
So now silly bantering between me and friends saying I will kill you over silly joking tweets are now circulating to claim I am a violent person. Are you out of your minds?